to dive in, I'd like to welcome Kinga Jentetics to the stage. She is the CEO and co-founder at PublishDrive. PublishDrive helps indie authors distribute their ebooks to over 400 stores worldwide, including Amazon, Apple Books, Google Play Books, and Barnes & Noble. PublishDrive's user-friendly model streamlines the self-publishing process across multiple sales channels and empowers authors with helpful analytics. PublishDrive has also received funding from Google's Launchpad Accelerator program, as well as Startup Wise Guys. Kinga was a finalist for the Digital Book Award 2018 awards in the category of Publishing Entrepreneur of the Year and Best Use of Data in Publishing. She's also made Forbes 30 Under 30 list in media in 2017 and was named one of the top 100 European female founders by the Hundert. In today's session, Kinga is going to share how she stalked growth through the crisis. So it's my pleasure to please welcome Kinga to the stage.
Hey everyone, it's good to be here, and I'm really excited about this whole conference because I really look forward to the other Untold stories as well and learn from all of you guys. So I'd like to share my screen first because I actually brought a presentation. Okay, I hope that everyone can see my screen. So basically, first, let me introduce who we are, what we do very briefly, so you can get a better understanding how we actually could grow throughout the crisis as well. So as Mary already told, Kinga Jentetics CEO and co-founder of PublishDrive, and we basically started, the three of us, the journey of PublishDrive to help authors and book publishers increase their sales worldwide with the smartest tools in the industry, which is basically helping to transform the whole traditional book industry into a digital one. The platform is pretty complex, so we help with the whole process of book publishing. I don't want to dive too much into details to this one, but the main thing is that we help with the publishing part, with tracking the analytics, even promoting the books as well. So whenever something is published in any of the stores, we help to get more sales as well, because obviously this is just one thing that you publish a book, you also have to get to the readers. And then at the end of the day, we also help with the accounting, which is much a pain in the ass for many of the authors, because you have to deal with money and royalties, and that's something that we also help with. And yes, as Mary already told, we have a wide network of different stores we work with, just ones like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Apple, Google Play, and so on. A lot of other regional stores as well worldwide, like Chinese stores, for instance, or even we work with Hungarian stores as well. But we work with a lot of digital libraries, so even schools, universities, public libraries, just to make sure that we can get the content to the place where people read. And basically, our customers, we published over 120K books in 65 languages, and most of our customers are coming from the US and UK, but we are proud that we have a wide global network of authors and book publishers, and it's really cool to actually have more than 20,000 of them on board. So yeah, let's dive into the part where I can tell you more about what we actually experienced throughout the crisis. Started to deal with all the challenges that our clients faced and how we could actually help them to grow, which actually ended in a way that we also grew throughout this time as well. So I'm sure that everyone knows what happened in 2020, which was totally not expected and by any of us. And yeah, I wrote some names because I'm sure that you so many of them, which really describes what has happened last year. So basically, we never want to go back if it is possible to 2020. And yes, even George R.R. Martin, there is a meme about that 2020 was directed by him, which is obviously a pretty big fun if you know the Game of Thrones series as well. But what happened basically? So we started to read because of the whole pandemic. So imagine that there were people who actually staying at home. I'm sure that you can reconnect with that. And everyone was actually searching for at-home entertainment options. And this was actually resulting in more people turning to books. Once, because they wanted to spend their time reading books and educating themselves. Second of all, they wanted to escape from the whole pandemic, which I'm sure that every one of us wanted to have that. The result, digital reading and digital book publishing was actually pretty strong last year and even this year as well. First of all, because of the demand that was actually changing, and second of all, that there were a lot of logistical issues as well. So a lot of bookshops were closed, as most of the businesses, physical businesses, were closed down last year. And that's why a lot of book publishers actually lost money, because one of their biggest revenue stream was coming from physical bookstores. And that's when they all came to us. Okay, guys, what can we do in order to have as much digital sales as possible? And how can you help us achieve that? And we're really happy to be there and help them in that front. And also, there was another interesting effect of the whole pandemic. Meanwhile, the physical bookshops were closed down. There was a drive in book sales in the physical front as well, which means that more print books were sold than before. Meanwhile, there were no bookshops open for that. So actually, where the growth actually was coming from is the print-on-demand technology, which is a bit different than the normal print books, because it's basically shortens the whole logistical part, how a book is printed and how a book is actually delivered to the end user, because it's like that the file is actually listed in the stores, and then whenever someone is ordering it, just at the moment when they order it, the book is actually getting printed, and that's when it's getting into the hand of the readers as well. So it really speeds up the whole process of publishing, which is really cool, because that was also one of the drivers last year. And then we actually went back. Okay, there are stuff that is happening in the market, as we can see, but at the beginning, to be honest, we all were freaked out. We didn't know what will happen, because obviously we had some ideas. Okay, if everything is closed down and everyone is staying at home, probably it will be good for business. But at the beginning in March, we didn't really know what will happen. So we really needed to educate ourselves and also go back to the basics. Okay, what shall we do in order to mitigate this whole crisis, and how can we actually leverage that and even grow throughout this whole period, which was really difficult for everyone. And that's when we actually came back to the main question, which every business should do, obviously at the beginning, but even throughout the whole journey of the business. What does our customer want during this time? How can we help them grow? And that's what we basically did in different ways. So first of all, we went back to our customers on the platform in surveys, but also in interactions with personal reach outs as well. How can we help them grow, and what kind of challenges they actually are facing right now? Because obviously we had our own challenges, but we are coming. We actually manage a platform where we have more than 20,000 different authors and publishers all over the world with different challenges and with different kind of problems at the moment. So we needed to really see what's going on and how we can actually solve if there's anything that we can do. And then we actually went back to some of our business partners. So we actually are really happy that we have close relationships with many of the stores we work with, but also with other industry players who are like thought leaders and influencers in the market. And we could actually dive into different discussions with them, what they see on the market, what kind of challenges they are facing at the moment, and what they see what will happen. And then obviously we actually try to do everything online. We are really fortunate to be in an industry as a cross-section of tech and publishing, where we actually can do our business online. But we also needed to reconnect with the people who are less tech savvy, because a lot of writers and a lot of book publishers are coming with a traditional background, so we needed to leverage that. But we utilize all the digital platforms and solutions we could actually have at the moment. And yes, there are some interesting things that we actually found out throughout this whole journey of mapping what are the biggest challenges for our clients and for our business partners. A few of these answers that they were actually coming actual users and actual clients of us. So some of them actually got financial issues, obviously, because the whole pandemic was really unfortunate for many businesses. So that was already one thing that we needed to understand, that, okay, if we want our customers to pay to us, what we should do in this time of, in this kind of unprecedented time. Some of them were really isolated, so they felt that they are lonelier than before, so they needed to reconnect with like-minded people in a different way than they could do that at the moment. There were not no like live or offline events. As we can see right now as well, we are in an online event, which is obviously a good enough solution, I would say. Then a lot of them wanted to have more sales, and also they wanted to have actually more time to write more books and focus more on creating content. And yes, there were like a lot of family-related health issues and sad stories that we unfortunately could see, that people were losing their loved ones. So this was already something that clicked ourselves, okay, something we need to change in order to make sure that we can actually still compassionate, but we can still be supporting business partners for them. So basically, what were the main results that we could actually derive from this? First of all, as I mentioned previously, there was an emotional crisis for people. So many of them actually lost their loved ones. They needed to change their way of doing things. For instance, they needed to work from home, which was a totally new life experience for them, and they had to those changes. And that's all kind of changes resulted in some extra stress and also some fears towards them as well. So we needed to understand that this is actually happening and how we can actually help them overcome this kind of emotional crisis. Then there was an existential crisis. So with a lot of people lost their job, or their family or their businesses went bankrupt, even though all the grants and all the stimulus that different governments were introducing. Still many bookshops were closed down, so a lot of income was lost. And so that's another part of the whole results part, with what we needed to acknowledge. Then we also understood that because people were isolated and they really needed to interact with people more than before, we also needed to put extra effort into the support that we give to our customers, which can be partly automated, but it can also be some human resources as well, in terms of how we actually interact with the customers. And then what we also identified, that many of them were struggling with information overload, because everyone went online and then fake news appeared, and they really didn't know what they could actually believe, what kind of information is reliable, and whether they can keep up with the trends, because no one was really talking about, okay, what's happening on the market, what is actually trending, how they can actually be there at the trending moment and even utilize that part of the whole, a journey where they can sell even more. So that was also one spot that we identified. And as a result, we actually changed a lot of things. But these are the four main pillars that we identified as the main game changer for our business to support the growth of our clients. First of all, we changed the communication a bit. So we tried to be more emotional and compassionate in our tone of voice, how we interacted with the clients. And we also proactively reached out to them more than before, which had good understanding of the clients. And when we looked at the competition on the market, it was not a standard thing to do. So a lot of clients were actually complimenting us that it was a really good move, that we tried to reconnect with our clients in a different level than before. Then, in order to make sure that somehow we can react to the financial and existential crisis that most of the clients were actually dealing with, we introduced a few price promotions. Even we did an extended trial period for users who could actually try out whether this is something that they want to use on the long term. And one of the main thing was that we identified, okay, we need to give a new kind of development for our clients, not in a way to put, buzzwords there that, hey, there is a new AI functionality, hey, there is a new, blockchain technology that we use. So it's basically something that is more closer to the bullshitting part than the actual value creation part. But we really needed to understand, okay, how they can make more money. And then that's how we actually introduced two new formats. Besides ebooks, we actually introduced print-on-demand technology, but also audiobooks as well. So basically, from the same content, they could create two different versions for two different target groups and two different type of readers as an extra, which could instantly grow their sales. And that's what we also see, that there is an author or a publisher who have different formats from the content. They can actually multiple their sales based on that. And then, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of authors, they wanted to have more support and more communication with our platform in general. So we introduced a higher level of customer success as well, in a more strategic level. And yes, I'm sure that many of you attended a lot of webinars before, and especially when the whole COVID-19 breakout happened. But we also did that, and we also could see that this was something that our customers really wanted, and it turned out, so these kind of webinars turned out to be a good success for us, which could actually result in a inbound sales team growth as well for us. And then, in order to make sure that our authors and also the book publishers we work with have a more reliable data source and they understand better what is happening on the market, we introduced book reports, which basically meant that we analyze our own sales data, which you can imagine from 120 books. We have a lot of different sales from different countries and different stores. We compiled a book report which basically contained what trends you can see, what kind of books are selling the most, which genres are trending in a specific moment, which countries are actually the best selling at the moment. We actually could see that if someone or if there was a big breakout, for instance, in Italy, then in France, and people were staying at home because they had to, then we could actually see that kind of pattern in the sales growth as well, that whenever a new quarantine regulation came into effect in one of the countries, then sales actually just spiked there. So it was a really interesting analysis that we could actually give to our authors and publishers, and they were really supportive that we actually could do that for them, because usually when it comes to digital publishing, there is not so much data sharing on the market, and that's what we wanted to change and make sure that if someone is coming on board with us, they know what they can expect. And we actually had that kind of book reports on a monthly basis, and then right now we do that on a half-a-year basis, basically. And of what was the result of this? We could actually grow more than 50% last year, and this year we are almost already doubling, which is that at least we did something good for our customers, and that's what we want to actually keep on doing. And instead of looking for all the buzzwords and all the tech terms, as I mentioned before, we actually go back to the customer and we connect with them and make sure that all the product developments that we are doing is serving their needs and nothing else, because that's what we actually are caring for. So what can we expect? So there's another meme that is about self-publishing, which is more about the journey, what people think, how self-publishing looks like from different aspects. But to be honest, I would be more closer to the part what I think I do, because that's pretty much summarizes how the whole publishing process looks like at the moment. However, there is a lot of parts, as we could see in 2020 to 21 as well, in many cases, that people are just overwhelmed and they just confuse what they should do in the future. But that's why we are here with PublishDrive to help overcome these struggles and make sure that it's going to be easier for them on the long term. Yes, I'm happy to answer any of the questions if there is anything that I can answer right now, or you can just reach out to me later on in one of the social media channels like LinkedIn, or one of the email addresses as well, if you have any questions to dive into more some of the specific topics that we can actually talk about.
All right, thank you so much, Kinga. That was great. Really interesting story. Okay, we have a couple questions from our audience. So a question from Miklos: how do you compete with Amazon?
Basically, it's an easy question to answer. Thank you for that. It's like that Amazon has their own platform and their own readers, and we work with Amazon as well. So our partners, and what we actually provide is that we add thousands of other besides Amazon as well, that where you can sell books, and also we have built a lot of functionalities and tools that helps you to create this whole process, this whole publishing process a lot easier, starting with categorizational help, also with promoting the books. There's a lot of tool that we actually created. So that's basically the easy answer for that, or the short answer.
All right, and we have another question. What were the biggest challenges in the early days of starting PublishDrive?
There were many. So just to pick one. See, one of them was definitely when we launched in 2015. I think we weren't really prepared for all the different nationalities that came on board basically in the very instant, and we weren't ready how to scale it from a financial perspective, because we are paying out royalties, so there is a process where we are dealing with money, and also how to actually make it from a taxation perspective in a more sustainable way. So that was something that we weren't prepared at the beginning, I think, but we actually really we dive into researching, okay, what tools can actually help us in order to support our growth, because obviously at the beginning we could solve it, but we could see that that is a bottleneck for growth. And since we actually are a delivery company, so our HQ is in the US, it was much easier to actually scale this whole part of the business. So I think that was one of the biggest early challenges that we could face with, but I'm sure there are many others that we can actually dive into. And I'm sure there will be even more in the future as well. So there will be always new challenges. That's a startup journey, I would say.
Awesome. Yeah, it's interesting. It's something that's, I guess it's part of your core business, how do you deal with the taxing, but it's sort of adjacent to, the actually delivering the product and running the service, which are it's kind of a good problem to have, I guess, right? When you have so much growth, you have to deal with that. We have another question. How do you see the Hungarian startup ecosystem compare regionally?
That's a very good question. In terms of the Hungarian ecosystem, what I can see that the regional ecosystem is actually more supportive when it comes to, for instance, women entrepreneurs. So that's what I could see. So there were different kind of studies that I was taking part in, started by Polish VCs, for instance, and it was really cool to see that they are really taking that seriously, and they made big research on the topic from different people and startups from different countries and regions, I think we could grow more and more on this field, not just here in Hungary or in the region, but on a global level as well. And it's getting there, so it's really a good trend what we can see. But we, for instance, published that less than 5% of the money is coming for female founders. So it's really a big problem, I would say, that we can focus on this in the future. But it's really good to have a lot of Hungarian success stories. As you can see from the lineup as well, there are many of them who actually are coming aboard.
Yeah, you're pretty active as an ambassador for supporting women in entrepreneurship. Maybe do you want to share a couple of the organizations that you work with, or how that plays out for you?
Yeah, so it's something that I was also supporting. So I took part in an Accelerator program that was directly focusing on female founders. And it just started, at least the program what I took part in, it was actually starting during the whole pandemic. So it was online. But this is one of the most supportive groups where I actually am being part of. And even though we were graduating, we still have a lot of programs dedicated for the whole alumni, where we can take part in. And even obviously a smaller group of female entrepreneurs, we still try to support each other with all the challenges that we are facing with. And I think this is one of the biggest achievements of the female entrepreneurship program last year, that we still are in touch and we still talk and support each other in many of the ways. This is one of the things, I think.
How big was that group? How many of you were in the program?
In the program, we were at the program where I was taking part in, we were about 15, I think, or even a bit less. But on a global level, when it was opening, there were previous programs as well, that they actually invited people the US, even from Africa. So they even have a Black Founders program as well. So it's obviously somehow an interaction with different niche groups of founders, which is not really getting the support that they should. And that's something that is a big initiative at Google. And I think it's a really good thing too.
That's really cool. I wanted to ask I had a couple questions about your presentation. So you mentioned that you were doing some promo codes, some price promos, and I see you also, I was going to ask how this, impacted your bottom line, but obviously it paid whatever you had to, I guess whatever revenue you lost by giving discounts, you more than made up for it by all of the other activities. But maybe you can speak to that a little. How did you decide, how much you were able to offer, or, how did you balance that aspect?
Yeah, we tested a different kind of options before the pandemic, but also throughout the pandemic as well. And we basically tested like time-sensitive promotions. So we didn't offer the whole product 50% off, and the subscription is like that. So every month you pay 50% less. We actually offer like for 2 months, you actually get 50% off, or you have 1 month free, which basically adds up the same amount for us, what we are actually losing. However, we could see that as more people started to pay, and we are lucky that our product is like that. If someone is joining, then we have really good numbers in terms of how many people are actually paying after the trial as well. So it was actually a good moment for us to give up on that kind of extra revenue, because they stick with us and they paid longer than, and probably in the beginning, if they didn't hear that there is a price promo, they didn't have the urge to actually sign up. So basically that was one of the understanding that we could see that even though if we asked for less money in the beginning for the first 2 months, it was actually getting more money on the long term for us. And interestingly, it was about the 3-month period, which was the same, mathematically is the same amount that you can actually save, or it's actually converting that. It's obviously because, if something is free, then it's a different kind of option than if something is a bit cheaper.
That's really interesting. Okay, I think we are out of time. I would love to keep with you more, but this was really awesome. And congratulations to you on all of your success with PublishDrive during the pandemic. And thank you so much for being here. It was great.
Thank you so much.
All right, take care, Kinga. Bye-bye. Bye.